Hello, my name is Jason Taylor. I help development teams deliver their project requirements faster and with less risk by automating build and delivery processes. In this course on the Jenkins build server, I will introduce you to the foundational aspects of Jenkins and related concepts using a step-by-step approach, with the end result being a complete and automated build system all the way through deployment. This course will feature Jenkins on the Windows operating system, but all the main principles and most of the demos are equally applicable. Being a bootcamp on Jenkins, there are just 4 major objectives for this course. First, you will learn the key concepts related to Jenkins and build automation. This includes understanding how Jenkins works and the benefits it provides. Second, we will build a complete end-to-end automated build system, starting off with our source code in GitHub, scheduled compilation, quality analysis, artifact publishing, and finally deploying a project to an application server. Third, as we build the automated build system, you will master the essential aspects of Jenkins. This includes learning and understanding the user interface and how Jenkins is designed, how to create, configure, execute, and maintain projects, the maintenance, integration with other tools, and extending Jenkins using plugins. Finally, how to enable security in Jenkins to ensure users see only their projects. All 3 aspects above combined will provide you an excellent starting point to apply to your projects or the ones that you support. In order to accomplish the course objectives, we start off with the introduction and core concepts. After a good foundation has been applied, we walk through the installation process, including any related tools and their configuration. Once everything is all set up and ready to go, we will dive into Jenkins with our first projects, getting to know Jenkins as we go along. A major component to the modern build system is automated unit testing and code quality analysis. We will hook up Jenkins to several tools for testing and quality, and then use those tools to affect the build status for our projects. Once we are confident we have a good, solid project build, we will configure Jenkins to publish those build artifacts for other systems to use, and then deploy those artifacts to a running application server. Some decisions had to be made to keep this course as focused as possible. Be aware that I decided to tailor this course for Windows users new to Jenkins. However, all the principles and most of the examples will work equally as well with a few minor tweaks. Since Jenkins uses local tools, those installations and usage would be specific to a given operating system. Also, this course focuses on a Java technology stack using Maven as the build management tool and deploying to the Apache Tomcat server. While Jenkins supports many languages, technology stacks, and deployment systems, Jenkins really excels with Maven projects. For source control, I decided to use Git, and by extension, the GitHub service, since Git is currently the most popular source control system available. If you use another source control management tool, that's okay. Jenkins likely has a plugin to add support for that tool. Finally, I decided on a very simple Jenkins setup. While Jenkins can be highly distributed, I kept things easy to understand and to follow along with by running everything on the same system. This allows for a simplified and complete build system all the way through project deployment. The approach I take in teaching this course is to give just enough theory to understand the critical concepts and what's going on. This course starts with core concepts, which is a high-level overview, and each of those concepts are more and more reinforced during the practical examples sections of this course. Within those examples, or screencasting demos, I walk through each step one at a time. With the screencast, I also provide each command or action in a reference guide that can be downloaded. All this is to keep the course focused and compact since I know many people have busy lives. Most of the videos are short and focused so you can jump directly to the topic you are most interested in. Additionally, I provide links to more information or other courses I have in my bonus section for students that wish to go deeper or explore related topics. With all that, I want you to pause the video lessons so that you can do the examples or follow along in order to get the most out of this course. Additionally, I provide the complete source for all the projects on GitHub and a listing of all the commands used throughout the course. Jenkins is a continuous integration and build server. I'll cover continuous integration in a few minutes. Basically, Jenkins is used to manually, periodically, and/or automatically build software development projects. These project builds can include compilation, running automated tests, verifying code quality adherence, and even deployment to an application server. While Jenkins is very capable and flexible, Jenkins is often used as an orchestrator between other tools or specialized services that carry the project to the next step and then report back the status. For example, Jenkins might contact a dedicated deployment tool in an enterprise environment. Jenkins is free and open source. That means the Jenkins development community is largely responsible for supporting and improving Jenkins. However, there are several companies that have taken the task of providing enterprise-class commercial support for those that require it. Jenkins is powered by Java and runs on the Jetty web application container by default. You can set up Jenkins to run on any other application servers or web containers, but we will stick with the default arrangement for this course. Jenkins is available online at jenkins-ci.org in a variety of installation options and plenty of documentation. The concept of a build maturity is to see how far along projects are in respect to the current best practices and build deploy automation. In the beginning, projects are normally built manually. These manual builds are often problematic and yield unreliable results. The next step is to automate a part of the build process using scripts or a build tool like Ant or Maven. Either way, these builds are still being run on developer system, still leading to "it works on my box" discussions. The next level up, the project finally dedicates a system exclusively for project builds, independent of any developer system. This setup uses a continuously running program monitoring the project for changes or on an ordained schedule, and then building and distributing the compiled project. Now, with an independent build system in place, the next step is to involve setting up the build system to do increased amounts of automation and testing. We start off with continuous inspection and perhaps evolve to full-fledged continuous deployment. I just mentioned a bunch of buzzwords that start with continuous something. Let me explain. In general, continuous build cycle starts off with a build process, in our case Jenkins, accessing the code from a source code repository and placing it on a dedicated build server, anywhere but a developer's computer system. The build process then builds or compiles the project based on the retrieved source code. In addition to ensuring the project compile or assemble properly, the build process may also perform static code analysis for later review. The build process can also execute a battery of unit, integration, functional, performance, and/or other tests, which are reported to the build process and/or a reporting server for historical reference. In some cases, the build process may take the results of those tests or code analysis to determine the overall build status worthiness. In some extremes, even failing the build if some metric is not passed. In more advanced setups, the build process will package up and deploy the build artifacts to a server for execution, provided, of course, the build so far is of adequate quality. Finally, we start the process over again for the next feature or enhancement for our project. There is a lot of confusion around continuous inspection, integration, delivery, and deployment. Continuous inspection is achieved when the build system is running, analyzing, and reporting code quality as well as running unit tests and reviewing code coverage. Normally, the progression from one to another is automated. Continuous integration is the next level up and is achieved when various project builds are able to be integrated back into the main development effort. Continuous delivery and continuous deployment are often confused with one another. Once the build system is able to deliver a project capable of production deployment automatically, including a full battery of tests, that system is generally considered to have achieved continuous delivery. However, the actual deployment requires a manual trigger, even if the rest of the process is completely automated. The next step is to actually perform the automatic deployment, thus crossing into continuous deployment. Jenkins is fully capable to provide support all the way up to continuous deployment, directly or via orchestration partners. For this course, I will walk through setting up a very simple continuous deployment build process. Let's look at how Jenkins works by reviewing Jenkins architecture. As any software, Jenkins has to run on a host system. This system determines which installer is used for Jenkins and the tools available for Jenkins to use. Jenkins runs on top of a Java web application container or application server. By default, this is Jetty. The Jenkins installer provides a packaged version of Jetty in which Jenkins will run. You should run Jetty and Jenkins on a Java development kit instead of a Java runtime engine, so Jenkins can access the JDK tools when needed. On most operating systems, there is a small program called a service that is responsible for starting, stopping, and monitoring Jetty and the Jenkins application. Within Jenkins, views provide a nice way to group projects and folders together. Projects, also known as jobs, provide configuration or instructions for how to build software. When ready, projects will queue up until there is an available build executor ready to execute the project's build. Those executors running the Jenkins project will leverage various supporting tools on the host system to assist with the build process. For example, a Jenkins project may call a shell script, a Maven lifecycle phase, or both. With Jenkins, nearly everything is a plugin, in that nearly all functionality is provided by plugins. You can think of Jenkins as little more than an executor of plugins. Plugins are small libraries that add new abilities to Jenkins and can provide integration points to other tools. Since nearly everything Jenkins does is because of a plugin, Jenkins ships with a small set of default plugins, some of which can be upgraded independently of Jenkins. If you need some functionality not covered by one of the default plugins, you can check out the long list of available plugins. However, I will warn you that not all plugins are created equal. Some plugins contain bugs, become abandoned, conflict with other plugins, or a myriad of other issues. I recommend testing out any plugins before introducing them to a live production system. You might notice that projects are sometimes referred to as jobs. Jenkins appears to use these two terms interchangeably. As discussed before, projects are the main unit of work in Jenkins by containing a list of instructions needed to complete a build for a software project. Those instructions are part of the Jenkins project's configuration, along with other project information like source control location or project metadata. The project's configuration is broken up into general information, pre- and post-build steps, the main build steps, build phases, or other build events potentially added by plugins. While other project types can be added via plugins, the two we are covering in this course are two default project types, Freestyle and Maven. The Maven project type is designed specifically for Maven projects, while the Freestyle project type does not force a specific configuration structure. Views are a way to group related projects together and really only serve to improve the user's interface in Jenkins. There are global views that are available to everyone, although they will only show projects that the user has access to. Also, user-defined views are set up and private to the logged-in user on Jenkins. The default All view is provided once the first project is created and will contain all the projects the logged-in user has access to. The workspace is the location on the computer system where Jenkins places all the files related to the Jenkins project and the related software project. By default, each project or job is assigned a workspace location. In addition to the software project's source code, the workspace contains Jenkins-specific project metadata. As part of the build process, the workspace may contain temporary files like logs. Upon success, the workspace may also contain any build artifacts, including any transient build files. The next several videos will be installation demos for all the tools we will be using throughout the remainder of this course. For those that prefer to skip this section, that's fine. I include a list of all the tools and notes for major deviations from the default path as a supplementary resource to this course. The complete installation process is included to ensure everyone is using the exact same setup. As discussed before, I am focusing the examples on the Windows platform. This keeps things simple by not having different variations for every possible operating system. Jenkins is available. Before installing Jenkins, we will walk through the process of installing several tools Jenkins will be using or we will be using during this course. I like using Chrome as my standard browser for all my courses. This step is optional, since the default browser included with the modern versions of Windows should be fine. I use Notepad++ for all my Windows-based course content, since it's much better than the default Notepad included with Windows. We will use the Get Source Control system to access the example project files. Since our main project will be a Java application, we will need to install the Oracle Java Development Kit, which is needed to compile source code for our project. Maven is the build tool we will be using for our Java application. Later, we will have Jenkins call Maven to do most of the work for our build process. Finally, we will install the Jenkins Continuous Integration Server using the Windows installer, which will set up Jenkins as a Windows service. With all the above, we will set up and configure these tools to work together to provide a seamless integration. Welcome. In this video, I'm going to show you how to tell if your operating system is 64-bit or not. I'm currently using Windows 10, although the steps will be very similar with other versions of Windows. I'm going to go to my File Explorer. File Explorer may be named Windows Explorer in prior versions of Windows. Once File Explorer has loaded, on the left-hand side, go to This PC. Right-click on that item. Then, on the pop-up menu, go to Properties. Click on that. Once the system window loads, we can look to see if our operating system is 64-bit or not. This is located under the System Information under System Type. Then to the right-hand side, you should see whether or not your operating system is 64-bit. In some cases, it may say 32-bit, or it may just leave off the fact that it's 64 or 32-bit. If it says expressly that it's 64-bit, then you know that you have a 64-bit version of Windows, and that you have a 64-bit processor, which is required to run the 64-bit version of Windows. So when you go to install software, make sure you match the type of software with the operating system type and processor that you have. If a distinction between 64-bit and 32-bit isn't available, just pick whatever installer is available. Most likely, it will be 32-bit if it is not specifically called out. Welcome. In this video, we are going to install the Google Chrome browser. This is my standard browser that I use throughout all my courses, including this one. I include this lesson so that everyone can follow along exactly. Keep in mind, these instructions may vary if Google decides to update their web page in the future. However, the general process will remain the same. First thing we need to do is download Google Chrome. So use your operating system's default browser and search for Google Chrome installer, or simply go to google.com/chrome/browser. Once that page loads, you may be tempted to click on the Download Chrome button. However, since I'm running a 64-bit operating system, I'm going to click on Download Chrome for another platform. If you have a 32-bit version of Windows, go ahead and click Download Chrome. Otherwise, let's click on the other platform link. Now Google will display the Download Chrome dialog and prompt me for which operating system I want to use. Under Download for another desktop OS, I'm going to select Windows 8/7 64-bit. This link may change in the future as additional versions of Windows are released. So I'm going to click on that link, and on the Download Chrome for Windows dialog, I'm going to uncheck Set Google Chrome as my default browser. In the future, you can change that setting, but for now, I recommend keeping your operating system's default browser as it is. After that, click on Accept and Install. That will begin the download of the Google installer. Once Chrome has finished downloading, you can click on Run, or some browsers may refer to this as Open. Either way, we want to execute the Chrome setup executable. Windows will prompt to make sure that you really do want to install this program. Click on the Yes button to continue. Now Google is downloading and installing Google Chrome. Once Chrome has been installed, Chrome will automatically launch and you'll be greeted with a welcome screen. Click on Next, then click on OK. Once the browser loads, you may be prompted to log in with your Google account. This is totally optional, and for now, I'm going to skip this. Great, once you've made it to the Google page, you're done. So now, let's exit out of Chrome. And now it's safe to close the browser that came with our operating system. Google Chrome should be available from the desktop or from the taskbar. To test this out, let's launch Google Chrome. Great, it looks like Google Chrome has been successfully installed. In this video, we're going to install Git for Windows. There are actually several ways to install Git on Windows. We're going to use a project called Git for Windows that provides us the most up-to-date version available for the Windows platform. This project is an improvement over the older recommendation of using the git-scm.com version of Git for Windows. As of the recording of this video, Git for Windows is still in preview. However, it is very stable, and for our purposes will be just fine. Either way, I recommend downloading and installing the latest version of Git for Windows. Let's start off by invoking our browser, in this case Google Chrome, then go to git, that's git, -for-windows.github.io. Once that page loads, click on the download button on the home page. This brings us to a page listing all the available downloads for the Git for Windows installer. You can see here that we have both 32-bit and 64-bit versions of the installer executable. Since I'm running a 64-bit version of Windows, I'm going to choose the 64-bit version of Git for Windows. Choose the version of Git for Windows that best matches your operating system. Now I'm going to click on the link for the Git installer for my platform. That will begin the download process for the Git installer. Once the installer has finished downloading, go down and click on Open. That will run the installer directly from the current location. If you are prompted about a security warning, just click on Run. Windows may also prompt you to make sure that you want to install this program. Click on Yes. Once the Git Setup wizard starts, on the first page, click on Next. The second page has the license agreement. Again, click on Next to agree to the license agreement. The next page is select your destination. This is the location that Git will be installed on your system. For me, this location is perfectly fine, so now I will click on Next. On the Select Components page, I would like the Git Bash icon on the Quick Launch or taskbar, as well as on the desktop. To get both of those icons, I will check Additional Icons, which also checks in the Quick Launch as well as on the desktop. Then click on Next. This is the folder on the Start menu that Git will be installed. Since this is fine, I will continue by clicking on Next. This page dictates what parts of Git and Git Bash are installed. Although we will only be using Git Bash as part of this course, I recommend selecting the middle option. This will install Git Bash as well as integration with the Windows command prompt. In doing so, no real major changes are being made to my system, so it is both flexible and fairly safe. After you've made your choice, click on the Next button to continue. This screen is regarding how to treat line endings. On Windows, text files normally end with a different style line ending than corresponding text files on Linux or the Mac operating system. Which option you choose will greatly depend on whether or not you're going to be doing any cross-platform development. I prefer using the middle option, which is to check out as is, that is, don't change anything, but then commit Unix style. That means when I use Git to commit, the file endings for my text files will automatically be converted to a Unix-style line ending. Since I bounce around between Windows, Linux, and the Mac operating system, the middle option makes the most sense for me. If you do all your development on Windows, and that goes for any team members sharing the same Git repositories, then the last option, Commit As Is, will be the option you'll want to select. Again, I'm sticking with the middle option, and if I want to later, this can be changed. Once we've made our selection, click on Next. Regarding the terminal emulator to use, I'm going to stick with the top option, which is a minimal terminal emulator that runs the bash shell environment. Once you've made your selection, click on Next. This page, Enable File System Caching, is experimental, and I recommend leaving it unchecked for now. Click on Next, and now we are installing Git for Windows. Once the installation process has completed, on the final page, we can uncheck the View the README. Then click on the Finish button. Now, let's close Google Chrome. While we're here, let's verify that Git for Windows with the icon on our desktop. Looks like it's there. So now, let's double-click on Git Bash to fire up Git Bash for the first time. Now that we've done that, let's verify that Git is installed. Type Git, that's Git, space, version. Once you've done that, press the Enter key. Git should respond with the version of Git that's installed. To close Git Bash, we can click on the Close button that's part of the window, or we can type the command Exit. In this video, we're going to do the minimum required to configure Git. First off, if Git Bash is not already loaded, invoke Git Bash. We're going to use Git's config command to set the values required for Git's configuration. The first command we're going to use is git config space -- global space -- list. The git config command can operate at the repository level or at the user level, which is indicated by the -- global option. -- list is the parameter we pass into the git config command to list all the known configuration options at the level being passed in this case, global. Once you've done that, press enter. Great, so we have an error message from Git Bash. It's telling us that it cannot read the .gitconfig file under our user's home directory. I want to demonstrate that Git is using a file called .gitconfig that is located under our user's home directory. This is the file used for global configuration settings in Git. Let's start off with our first configuration setting, our user's name. Type git space config space -- global followed by the setting to set. In this case, user.name space and then in double quotes the value. I'm going to put my name in, but you should put in your name. Double check the line and then press enter. A lot of times when we enter in commands with Git, no news is good news. We will continue on, assuming the prior command was successful. The next command is to set the email address for our user. Type git space config space -- global space user.email space and then in double quotes put your email address. I'm using my email address in this example. Review your line and then press enter. Again, no news is good news, but at this point we can go ahead and verify this by listing our global configuration as we did before. Like above, we're going to type git space config space -- global space -- list. And this time, instead of an error, Git responds with the two configuration options that we set, the user's name and the user's email. To show you these commands are just being saved into a .gitconfig file, I'm going to use the cat command to output the entire contents of that file back to the console. So type cat, that's cat, space, tilde, which is a shortcut to our user's home directory, /.gitconfig. Dot files are special files that are semi-hidden so they don't get accidentally edited or deleted. Double check the line and then press enter. The output of this file so far is a user section with two values, name and email, and their corresponding values. This is all we needed to do in order to configure Git properly so that we can do some other commands later on. In this video, we're going to download and install Notepad++ for Windows. Open up your browser, I'm using Google Chrome, and go to notepad-++.org. Once the Notepad++ website loads, on the left-hand side, go to the Download option. Once the download page loads, click on the big green download button. This will download the Windows installer that will walk us through the rest of the process. Once the installer has finished downloading, within Chrome, we can click on Open, which will run the installer in place. When Windows prompts you about whether or not you want to really install this program, click on Yes. That will launch the installer for Notepad++. The first screen is to choose your language. I'm going to keep it on English and hit OK. On the first screen of Setup, I'm just going to advance on with Next. On the license agreement page, you can scroll through and make sure you agree with the license. Once you've read through this, click on I agree. On the Choose Install Location page, I'm going to leave it at the default location and click Next. On the first Choose Components page, I'm going to keep all the defaults and advance with the Next button. On the second Choose Components page, I do want the installer to create a shortcut on my desktop, so I will check that option. Now, let's click the Install button to install Notepad++. On the final page after the installation process, uncheck Run Notepad++. We're going to run Notepad++ from our desktop in a moment. Now, click on the Finish button. Great. Now let's close our browser and verify that we have our Notepad++ icon on our desktop, which we do. Double-click that icon to verify that Notepad++ can launch. Now that we've confirmed that we have successfully installed Notepad++, let's close the program. Welcome. In this video, we're going to configure Notepad++ to run from within our command environment. I'm going to be demonstrating this with Git Bash, but this will work equally as well with the Windows command prompt or PowerShell. To demonstrate what I mean, I'm going to fire up Git Bash and try executing Notepad++ from the command line. So type Notepad++, then press Enter. In this case, Git Bash tells us command not found. Well, we can fix that. Let's exit out of our command environment. I'm going to type exit, and that closes Git Bash. The first step is to simply find where Notepad++ is installed. To do that, I'm going to go to File Explorer. File Explorer may actually be named something else on your version of Windows. In some case, it's named Windows Explorer. Once File Explorer has loaded, expand out this PC, then go to the C drive, which is under local disk. Notepad++ is a 32-bit piece of software, which running in a 64-bit version of Windows will be under Program Files, parenthesis x86. Expand that out, and we should find Notepad++ here. So click on that folder, and look for the Notepad++ application. Great, we have found the location where Notepad++ is installed. Now go up to the address bar and click on it. This will give us the file path location where Notepad++ is installed. Copy this location. I'm going to use Ctrl-C, or you can right-click and select Copy. Great. With File Explorer still open, I'm going to scroll back up to this PC and right-click on this PC. From the pop-up menu, go to Properties. Once the System Control Panel window opens, click on Advanced System Settings. The System Properties will open onto the Advanced tab. Go to the bottom of the Advanced tab and click on Environment Variables. We need to modify the path environment variable under System Variables. So under System Variables, scroll down until you find the path variable. Select it and click on Edit. In the field for Variable Value, go to the end of this value. The quick way to do this is to hit the End key. We're going to add another path value at the end of this string. To separate paths, we're going to use a semicolon. After that, paste in the path location of Notepad++ that we copied in the steps before. Ctrl-V. Double check the value, and then click on OK. Once we turn to the Environment Variables dialog, click OK. Back at the System Properties dialog, click OK. At this point, we can close the System window. And it's also safe to close File Explorer. Great. Now that we've done that, let's test it out. I'm going to return to Git Bash, and like before, type Notepad++ and then press Enter. Notepad++ should launch. Now that we're done with that, we can close Notepad++ and Git Bash. Welcome. In this video, I'm going to walk through the steps necessary to install the Oracle Java Software Development Kit for Windows. I'm going to go to my browser, which I'm using Google Chrome, and I'm just going to do a search for Java Development Kit download. And I want to look for a download link that looks fairly official. It's got to come from oracle.com. So either one of the top two hits that isn't an ad should get us there. So I'm going to click on the second search results, which is Java SE Downloads. That's part of the Oracle Technology Network. So click on that link, and that should take us to the Downloads tab for Java SE Downloads. On this tab, it should feature the latest version of the Java SE platform. In this case, it's Java 8, Update 45. You may see a different number. It may be a different update number, or maybe even a different version of Java entirely. I recommend just getting the version of Java that's displayed here. Now I'm going to go over to the block that has JDK, which is the Java Development Kit, and click on the Download button. Go to the Download section for the Java SE Development Kit and select the item Accept License Agreement. Now you will be able to download the version of Java that matches your platform. The two Windows downloads are towards the bottom. The Windows x86 is intended for 32-bit versions of Windows. The Windows x64 is intended for 64-bit versions of Windows. Since that's the version of Windows that I have, I'm going to select the 64-bit installer. Click on the link to download the 64-bit version of the installer. Once the installer has finished downloading, I'm going to open up my options and select Open to run the installer from this location directly. Windows will prompt to verify that we want to install this program, so I'm click on Yes, and that launches the Java installer. This installer is actually 2-in-1. It will install the Java SE Development Kit as well as the JRE. And the JRE is simply the runtime environment for Java. So on the initial page, just click on Next. The default values are fine, and the installation path is okay as well, so click on Next. This starts the actual installation process. Great. So now we've entered the second phase of the Java installation, the installation of the Java JRE, which is a Java runtime environment. Again, the destination folder is perfectly fine, so let's just click on Next. And now we are installing the JRE. Great. Now that we've finished installing the JRE and the JDK, click on the Close button. Now that we've installed Java, we can close our browser. Now, let's verify that Java is installed by opening our terminal program. I'm going to use git bash, but PowerShell or the command prompt will work equally as well. So from your command line environment, type java-version, then press enter. Java should respond with the version of Java that was just installed. Now that we've done that, we can exit. Welcome. In this video, I'm going to set up the Java Home environment variable. Some programs that use Java require a special environment variable named Java Home to exist in order to run. Before we can do that, we need to make sure that Java is installed. To verify that, just open the command prompt and type java-version. If Java is installed, it will respond with the version of Java that's currently installed. Now that we've done that, we can close our command prompt. Let's go find where the Java JDK is installed. So I'm going to open up my File Explorer. File Explorer is sometimes called Windows Explorer in prior versions of Windows. I'm going to go to the C drive and Program Files, which is where 64-bit versions of applications are installed on the 64-bit version of Windows. Going under there, I can see that I have a Java folder. Going into there, I have the JDK folder and the JRE folder. For Java Home, we want the JDK version. Once we've made it into that folder, click on the path bar, and that will switch to the traditional path to this folder. Control-C or right-click and copy that value. Now, while in File Explorer, right-click on this PC. Then go to Properties. Once the System window loads, go to Advanced System Settings. That will pop up the System Properties dialog onto the Advanced tab. Go to the Environment Variables button. Once you click that, you will be on the Environment Variables dialog. I prefer creating the Java Home variable as a system variable. So under the System Variable section, I'm going to click on the New button. Once the new system variable dialog loads, for variable name, type the value Java_home using all capital letters. Then go to the variable value field and press Ctrl V or right-click and paste the value that we just copied from File Explorer. Double check that value and make sure it's the path to the Java JDK. Now click on OK. Back on the Environment Variables dialog, click OK. And again, OK on the System Properties dialog. Back at the System window, we can close that window. And now it's safe to close the File Explorer. Alright, let's test this out. Go to the command prompt. We can use the set command to echo the value of a given environment variable. Type set space Java_home, again using all capital letters. Double check and then press enter. Java home is equal to the path to the Java JDK. That's exactly what we want. Great. Now that we verified that, we can close the command prompt. Welcome. In this video, I'm going to walk through the steps necessary to download and install Maven for Windows. I'm going to go to my browser, which I'm using Google Chrome, then go to maven.apache.org. Once the Apache Maven project website loads, on the left-hand side, under Get Maven, there should be a download link. Click on that item. Once the download page loads, scroll down to the available download options, and for Windows, we want the binary zip. Go to the column for the link and click on the link. That downloads the entire distribution for Apache Maven, at least the binary version. Once the zip file has completed downloading, expand our options and select Show in Folder. That option should take us to our Downloads folder with our Apache Maven zip file selected. With that file selected, right-click on it and then choose Extract All from the pop-up menu. That will launch an extraction wizard with the first page asking us where to extract the files. I like to place all my development tools in a common area, which I call DevTools off the C drive. This can be any location you want on your system, including other drives. You just need to remember where this is. Once you've either selected or typed in the destination, leave the Show Extracted Files when complete checked, and then click on Extract. Once the extraction is complete, the extraction wizard will open up the destination folder. The destination folder should contain a folder within it named after Apache Maven plus the version number. Go into that folder, and we just need to make sure that we have everything set up the way we need to. While I'm here, I'm going to select the address bar, which will normalize to a normal path to this folder, then Ctrl-C or right-click and copy. Then, within File Explorer, right-click on this PC, then go to Properties. Once the system window loads, go to Advanced System Settings. That launches the System Properties dialog on the Advanced tab. At the bottom of that tab, click on the Environment Variables button. Once there, we're going to create a new system variable and edit the existing path variable. Under System Variables, click on the New button. For the variable name, type m2_home in all capital letters. Then, in the variable value, paste in the value of the path to Maven that we copied in the prior steps. Ctrl-V or right-click, paste. Double-check the value and then click on OK. Now, within the system variables, scroll down until you find the path variable. Great. Select the path variable, then click on the Edit button. On the variable value, go to the end of the value. You can use the keyboard key End to go to the very end of the value. Now, separate the path with a semicolon. Now, instead of pasting in the path like we did in the previous step, we're going to use the environment variable that we just created. To reference another environment variable, we surround it with percent signs. So %%, then jump back between the two, and let's type in our environment variable, m2_home. Now let's advance past the last percent and tack on /bin. That will tell the path variable to include the bin directory underneath the location to m2home. That's the actual path to all the executables that are bundled with Maven. Once we've done that, double check our value, then click on OK. Once back to the Environment Variables dialog, click on OK. Again, on the System Properties dialog, click on OK. Now that we're back to the System window, we can close this window. And at this point, it's also safe to close File Explorer. And while we're at it, let's close our browser. Alright, well, let's check it out. I'm going to launch the Windows command prompt. This process will work equally as well with Git Bash or the Windows PowerShell. Once the command line has loaded, type mvn --version, then press enter. If Apache Maven responds with its version number and some other information, then you know that Maven has been installed correctly. Once we've validated that, we can close the command prompt. Welcome. In this video, we're going to install Jenkins CI for Windows. I'm going to open up my browser, which I'm using Google Chrome, then go to jenkins-ci.org. Once the Jenkins webpage loads, look for the Downloads area. Under Download Jenkins, look for the native packages for Windows. In my case, it's the first item. Click on that link, and that will begin the download of the Windows installer. I'm going to open up the zip file directly and in place by double-clicking on it. This reveals a Windows installer and a setup application. It doesn't matter which one you actually click on, so I'm going to click on the Windows installer package. I may be prompted for a security warning. Click Run. On the first page of the Setup Wizard, click Next. On the page regarding Destination folder, this location is okay for me, so click Next. The Ready to Install is our last opportunity, allowing us to back out of the installation process if we want to, so click Install to proceed. Windows User Account Control may prompt you for whether or not you wish to continue installing the software. Click Yes to continue. Now, the Setup Wizard is installing Jenkins. On the last page of the installer lets us know we have completed installing Jenkins. Click Finish to close the wizard. On your version of Windows, you may be prompted to open your browser so that we can see Jenkins in action. I'm going to be using Google Chrome for this. I'm also going to check the option to always use Google Chrome for this application. Now click OK, and that brings us to the main page for Jenkins, which confirms that Jenkins is set up and configured to run on our system. Welcome. In this video, I'm going to show you how to stop and start Jenkins using the Windows services. By default, when using the Windows installer to install Jenkins, Jenkins will be set up as a Windows service. We can find that by going to our Start menu, and on my system, go to All Apps, then scroll down to Windows Administrative Tools. Expand that out, then scroll down and find Services. Click on that item. That will launch the Services app, which we can look and see and control all our Windows services. I'm going to expand this out a little bit. Let's scroll down and find Jenkins. There it is. If we double-click on the Jenkins item, that will bring up the properties for our Jenkins service. You can see its current status is running. You can also see that our startup type is automatic. That means that whenever our Windows system reboots, Jenkins will be automatically started when the system comes back online. To restart Jenkins, we can click on the Stop button. After a few seconds, Jenkins is stopped. Then, when we're ready, we can click on the Start button to start Jenkins back again. Great. There are times when you will need to restart Jenkins from outside of the Jenkins dashboard. On Windows, you should do that through Services. Now that I'm done with this item, I'm going to hit OK to close. While we're here, we can also control Jenkins without diving into the properties. So if I right-click on the Jenkins icon, I can click on Stop, and that will stop Jenkins. If I go back to my web page for Jenkins and refresh, Chrome tells me the web page is not available. Let's go back to our Services panel, right-click on the Jenkins item, and click on the Start menu item. Now, Jenkins is started back again. Let's confirm that on our browser. Reload. And now, Jenkins is back available. In this section, you will be introduced to the Jenkins user interface during a bit of an orientation. We will also explore installing a plugin in Jenkins to change its default behavior. Also, we will explore how to configure the Jenkins system and Jenkins projects. Much of this we will learn while creating, executing, and managing our first project in Jenkins. With this project, we will learn about many of the essential aspects of projects in general. Welcome. In this video, we're going to begin our orientation of Jenkins by creating a job. First, I'm going to open up my browser and go to our local Jenkins installation, which is at localhost:8080. This opens up our local Jenkins installation. Notice on the left-hand side, we have several items which are high level. We have our build queue, which there's nothing in queue, and we have our build executor status. We'll go into this more as we build jobs. And right in the middle, when you first start and there aren't any jobs created, you have a nice little inviting message to create a new job. So let's do that. So click on Create a New Job. Let's name this First Job. In Jenkins, jobs and projects are interchangeable. There are several types of jobs or projects we can create. We have Freestyle, Maven, External, and Multi-Configuration. In this course, we'll be covering both Freestyle and Maven, but we're going to start off with the Freestyle project. So select that item and then click on the OK button. The next screen is actually the configuration for this job. So we can scroll through and see what we have available, which really isn't a whole lot for the Freestyle build. Part of that is there's just not a lot that comes with Jenkins by default, which can be extended later with plugins, which we will cover. Another reason why there's not a lot here, that is the bulk of the work can be done with build steps which are added individually, as well as post-build actions, which happen after the build. Let's start off with our first build step. I'm going to click on Add Build Step, which gives me a nice drop-down. Since we're on a Windows system, I'm going to select Execute Windows Batch Command. Before we type in the command to use, I want to show you exactly what's going to happen by using the Windows command prompt to do exactly what the command is going to be. So I'm going to go to my Start menu and then open up the command prompt. The command we're going to use is echo. So type echo space and then in double quotes, hi. Once you've done that, press enter. And as you might imagine, the echo command simply echoes or repeats whatever you pass in to the echo command. This is all we're going to have Jenkins do right now. So now that we're done with the command prompt, let's close it. Then back in our browser, in our build step, let's type in that same command. Echo, then a space, then in double quotes, hi. Once we've done that, we can click on the Save button. Great. After saving the configuration for our first job, it lands us on our project's main page. Welcome. In this video, we're going to continue on by building our first job and then inspecting the results. I'm currently on the main page for our project, also known as a job. Since we're here, we're going to click on the Build Now button to fire off our first job's execution. Click that now. You can see that build was scheduled, which responds very quickly under our build history with a blue ball. Blue ball actually means success, and if we click on the ball, we can see the console output of that job. Like I demonstrated in a previous video, using the echo command simply prints out what you pass into it back to the console, which Jenkins dutifully captures in its logs. If I want to, I could also see this output as plain text. I will warn you, if you do that, you need to use your browser's back button to get back to the Jenkins interface. Another piece of the Jenkins UI that we can take notice of is the breadcrumb, which is this listing of where you are in the Jenkins UI. Jenkins at the top level, first job, which is our job or project, and then which build number that I'm on, which is build number 1. I can click on build number 1 to return to the main page for this specific build. I can get back to the console output by clicking on the console output menu item. I also have the option to delete the build, which we may do later, but not right now. And I can click on Back to Project or click on First Job, which is our project. Welcome. In this video, we're going to continue our Jenkins orientation by looking at additional features of the Jenkins interface. I'm currently on our first project's main page. In our build history, we have a successful build. If I go up another level, up to our main dashboard, we now have our job listed under an All tab, which will list by default all jobs that we create in our Jenkins interface. On this listing of our jobs, we start off with the first item, which is the status. The status tells us the last known state of our build. Blue balls by default are success. We will change that later in another lesson. Also in another lesson, we will change this to red when we fail the build intentionally. The next column over is the weather, which shows an aggregated trend of all the builds that have happened recently. Sunshine means that all the recent builds have successfully ran. Of course, we have the name of the job and how long ago the last successful build was, and the build number of that last success. So build number 1 was last successful 7 minutes and 22 seconds ago. The next column over is last failure. Since we haven't had any failures, NA is displayed. In the last labeled column, we have the last duration, which is how long the last build took, in this case, 0.27 seconds. And then in the final column, we have a Build Now button, which will allow us to schedule an immediate build. By clicking on that, I schedule a build immediately, which may happen so fast we won't see it in the build executors. So we will have to drop back down to First Job, which is our project, and once we arrive, we see we have a second build that is also successful. In this video, we're going to continue looking at jobs by intentionally failing our job. I'm currently on our project's main page, and based on our build history, we've had 2 successful builds. If I click on Build Now, it will schedule an immediate build, and then quickly respond with another successful build. However, I want to change this so that it will fail next time. To do that, I'm going to go back to Configure. That opens up our configuration for our project, which will allow us to change it. If I go down to Build, we're executing a Windows batch command. In this box, I will change it to a command that I know doesn't exist in Windows. We just add a D to the echo command, then save that change. Saving the change then lands us back on our project's main page. Now, schedule another build. This time, we have a red ball, which means build number 4 was not successful. Like I've demonstrated before, I can click on the ball itself to go to the console, but we also have the option to click on the date. Doing so will take us to that build's particular page. And from here, I also have the option to view the console output. The console output shows us exactly what happened, including each command that was entered. We can see here that the deecho command, or decho, does not exist. Alright, so now that we've seen that, we're going to go up to our project level, and now up to the dashboard level. At the dashboard, we see that our status is now a red ball. It shows us the status of the last build. Also, we have our weather icon that shows partly cloudy, which means that 1 out of the last 4 builds has failed. Well, let's change the weather. Since we know our build is currently failing, if we build one more time, which we can do directly from our dashboard by clicking on our Schedule a Build icon, we can go back into First Job and confirm that we have number 5 failing. Going back to our dashboard, our icon for the weather has changed from partly cloudy to cloudy, which means that the last 2 out of 5 builds has failed. Let's continue making our weather worse. Scheduled one more build. If I go into First Job, you can see number 6 has failed. Going back up to dashboard, you can see that our weather icon has changed into something that looks like it's raining, which means that the last 3 out of 5 builds have failed. Let's continue. We do it one more time, go into First Job, confirm that build number 7 has failed, and go back to our dashboard. Now it looks like thunderstorms, which means that the last 4 out of 5 builds have failed. And let's round this off. Let's make sure that the last 5 builds have failed. So I clicked off the build one last time, go into First Job, confirm that number 8 fails, back to dashboard, and thunderstorms is really the last weather status, which means that all recent builds have failed. Welcome. In this video, we're going to continue with our first job by enabling and disabling the job. I'm currently on the project or job's main page, and one of the items available is to disable the job. So perhaps in this situation, I noticed that I'm having a lot of problems with this particular build, and maybe it's just really hard to diagnose and find the problem. So for now, I just want to disable the job. Now I realize this job is contrived and very simple to fix, but for illustration purposes, I'm going to disable the job. So click on Disable Job, and now this job has been disabled. If I go out to the dashboard, under Status, we have a gray ball, which means this job is disabled. It still retains all the other items that are listed, with the exception of the Schedule a Build icon. Let's dive back into our project by clicking on First Job, and then click on the Enable button. This re-enables the job. If we go back out to the dashboard, we can see that the last known build status is displayed again. Welcome. In this video, we're going to continue our Jenkins orientation by looking at plugins. I'm currently on the Jenkins dashboard, and if I go over to the menu items on the left-hand side, one of the items is Manage Jenkins. So click on that item, and the Manage Jenkins page will be loaded. This lists out several items that we can use to configure and manage Jenkins. One of the items is Manage Plugins. So click on that. Since almost all functionality in Jenkins is via plugins, Jenkins comes preloaded with several plugins already. And many of those plugins that come bundled with Jenkins will require updating, even if you just downloaded the latest version of Jenkins. On the Plugin Manager, we have several tabs, Updates, which are all the plugins we currently have installed that need updating, the Available tab, which will list out all the available plugins that are registered with the Jenkins website, Installed, which is a list of all the plugins that are currently installed, and then Advanced, which allow us to do some very custom work with plugins. I'm going to go back to Updates, and I want to update all the plugins. Now, I could go individually and check each item that I want to update. That might work if I only want to update a select number or just a few plugins. However, if I scroll all the way to the bottom of this page, I have some options, None and All. If I select None, then everything will be unchecked. So if I scroll back to the top, those few at the top that I checked are now unchecked. Going back to the bottom, if I select All, then all the plugins will be checked. Now that I've done that, I can click on Download Now and Install After Restart. Click that now. If we scroll up, we can see Jenkins is working on all the plugins that it's going to download and install. As an option, we can click on an item, Restart Jenkins, when installation is complete and no jobs are running. Let's do that now. Great. That causes Jenkins to restart. If Jenkins does not automatically restart, as this message says, then go ahead and refresh your browser. For me, I just have to right-click and then select Reload. However, Jenkins was able to restart before I had to do that. Back on the Plugins page, I'm going to go back to Dashboard, and this will set us up for the next video. Welcome. In this video, we're going to continue our Jenkins orientation by adding a plugin. I'm currently on our dashboard, so let's add a plugin by going to Manage Jenkins, then click on Manage Plugins. Since we just updated all the plugins that came with Jenkins, the Updates tab is empty, so let's go to the Available tab. This tab lists all the plugins that are available and registered with the Jenkins website. The plugin I want to install is called Greenballs, which will turn the blue for success to green for success. I could scroll down and look for the Greenballs plugin specifically, or at the very top, I can click on Filter and just type the name of the plugin I'm looking for. All I have to do is type green, and one of the items listed is the Greenballs plugin. To install that plugin, I just have to put a check mark next to the plugin. Then choose Install Without Restart or Download Now and Install After Restart. Some plugins require a restart and some don't. I'm going to stick with Install Without Restart. Great, it looks like I have a success. Let's check it out. And if it doesn't work, then we'll just need to restart Jenkins before we see the effect. Click on Back to Dashboard. And now, since our last status was failed, we need to go into our project. So click on First Job, and we're currently on our project's main page. If I look at the build history, I see the first 3 builds are successful and now have a green ball instead of a blue ball. To see this in action again, we can fix our failure by going to Configure, then scroll down to our build step and make our correction. Since we added the unnecessary D at the beginning of the echo command, we'll just need to remove it. Now that we've done that, save, which lands us on the project main page. Now, let's click Build. Great. If we go back up to Dashboard, the last status icon is now a green ball for success. Welcome. In this video, we're going to continue our Jenkins orientation by deleting specific builds as well as the entire project. I'm currently on the Jenkins dashboard. Let's go into our project, which is First Job. Once on the First Job main page, we can delete individual jobs if we so desire. This, of course, assumes that you have the proper permissions to delete the builds. One way is to find the offending job and click on the date, which will load that job's main page. Then, on that page, you should have on the left-hand side a Delete Build item. Click on Delete Build, and then on the next page, you will be asked to confirm whether or not you really want to delete the build. For the most part, deleting builds is something you should avoid doing, because it does tamper with the build history. So I would only do this towards the beginning when I'm just trying to debug the build process. If you want to delete the build, click on the Yes button. Now if we review our build history, we can see we have build number 4, 5, and 6 is missing, and we go directly to 7. Another way to delete the build is to hover over the build item's number. Then a down caret will appear, which will allow us to click on a drop-down menu. Part of the drop-down menu will allow us to delete the build. Like before, we will be presented with a Are You Sure page in which we need to click Yes to continue. Great. Now, reviewing the build history, we have 4, 5, 7, then 9. So both 6 and 8 have been removed. What if I don't want the project at all? To delete the entire project, on the project's main page, we can click Delete Project. Doing so will prompt me, Are you sure you want to delete the project First Job? Click on OK in order to continue. Doing so returns us back to our dashboard with the Welcome to Jenkins message, as well as the enticing message to create a new job. Welcome. In this video, we're going to continue our Jenkins orientation by setting up our Jenkins configuration. To set up Jenkins configuration, go to Manage Jenkins. The top item should be Configure System. So click on that item. That loads the Jenkins configuration. At this point, we can take a few moments to review all the items that are currently available on the Jenkins configuration page. Note, throughout the course, we will be revisiting this page as we make modifications to our Jenkins system or need to make configuration updates. For right now, there are a couple items that we need to set up. I'm going to scroll down. We need to add a JDK and we need to add Maven. Both of these items will set us up for the next section of this course. Let's start with the Java JDK. So under JDK, JDK installations, click Add JDK. By default, Jenkins is going to have Install Automatically checked, but we've already installed the JDK, so I'm going to uncheck Install Automatically. Instead, we need to fill in the name, which is any label we want to give this installation of the JDK, as well as Java Home, which is the full path to where Java is currently installed. To find that path, we need to open up our Windows operating system's File Explorer. You can go down to the taskbar and open File Explorer. Once that loads, I'm going to find my C drive and then Program Files. One of the items under Program Files should be Java. Double click on that. Within Java, I have two items, the JDK and the JRE. For Jenkins, we need to be using the JDK, so double click the JDK item. Once there, select the address bar. This will convert that into our path to the current folder on our system. Now, Control-C or right-click and select Copy. Go back to our browser with Jenkins loaded, then paste in the value in the Java_Home field value. Control-V or right-click, then paste. For the name of the JDK, it doesn't really matter, but give it something meaningful. Since I have JDK 1.8, which is also known as Java 8, I'm going to use the name Oracle JDK 8 as my name. Clicking away from that value, Jenkins will update itself and realize this field no longer needs to be populated. Let's continue on with our Maven installation. We're going to be following the same process. Click on Add Maven. Let's give this Maven installation a name. I'm going to call it Maven 3. I'm going to uncheck Install Automatically. And like before, Maven_Home is the full path to where we have Maven installed. To find that, I'm going to go back to my File Explorer and then click on C drive and then find where I installed the Apache Maven installation. In my previous demo, I showed putting everything into DevTools. In this case, the only item I have here is Apache Maven. so go into that folder. And then, like before, click on the address bar to show the path. Now, Control-C or right-click, then copy. Return to Jenkins, and in the Maven Home field, Control-V or right-click, then paste. Now that we've updated our Jenkins configuration, we need to click on Save. The difference between Save and Apply is Apply will save the changes but then remain on the configuration page so you can continue making changes, whereas Save will save our changes but then return to the previous page. Since I have no further changes to make, I'm going to click on Save. Great, now we have returned to the Jenkins dashboard. In this section, we will dive a little bit deeper with Jenkins by creating a Maven project in Jenkins. However, before we get started within Jenkins, we need to validate the project is working outside of Jenkins first. This eliminates potential issues that are external to Jenkins. Once we confirm our Maven project is building outside of Jenkins, we will create and configure our Maven project within Jenkins, and then execute the project build. Once the build has completed, we will review the results of the Maven project and see how well Jenkins understands Maven structured applications. Also, while working within the Maven project, we will reinforce and learn new aspects of Jenkins. Finally, we will take a quick dive under the hood as we look at the workspace folder structure of Jenkins projects. Welcome. In this video, we're going to download and compile the next application we're going to be using in this section outside of Jenkins first. To show you which application we'll be using in the rest of this section, I'm going to open up Chrome and I'm going to go to github.com/srctips. Once that page loads, I'm going to look for the project called Time Tracker. Click on that link. This is the project that we'll be using for the rest of this section to demo the Maven-based workflows in Jenkins. However, before we get started with that, let's make sure this project compiles outside of Jenkins before we get started inside of Jenkins. To do that, I'm going to go down to the cloning options for this repository and click on HTTPS to make sure we're using the HTTPS version of the clone options. And then, if you have this button available, copy the clipboard, click on that button to copy the HTTPS clone URL to your clipboard. Now, go to your command prompt, and it is currently pinned to my start menu, so I'm going to select command prompt. Once the command prompt loads, we're going to use git to clone this repository. Type git space clone space and then paste in the URL that we just copied. In the Windows command prompt, you should be able to use the shortcut key Command V. Once you've done that, press enter. Once the clone command has completed, use the cd command to change directory into the Time Tracker folder. cd space time-tracker. Press enter. If I do a dir, that shows us the contents of this repository. Since this project has a POM XML, we should be able to run the Maven command directly from this folder. Type mvn space clean space package, then press enter. Once the Maven command has completed, make sure that we have a build success. If you do, that means the project is in a successfully building state. This is also a very good way to troubleshoot any builds that you might have in the future with Jenkins by removing Jenkins from the equation. Now that we've confirmed this repository and its containing projects will build, we can close the command prompt. Welcome. In this video, we're going to add additional plugins necessary to support the rest of this section in this course. I'm going to open up my browser back to our Jenkins installation. Then go to Manage Jenkins. Then go to Manage Plugins. Click on the Available tab. The plugins that we are interested in for the rest of this section will be the Git and GitHub plugins. To quickly find them, I'm going to go to the Filter search and type in Git, G-I-T. Then find the Git plugin, then check the checkbox next to it. Then scroll down until you find the GitHub plugin. Also, check that checkbox. Once you've done that, click on Install Without Restart. Great, now that we've done that, what you'll notice is that although we just checked Git plugin and the GitHub plugin, Jenkins automatically found any dependency plugins, for example, the Git client plugin and the GitHub API plugin, and included those as well. Great, now that we're done, we're going to go back to Manage Jenkins, then click on Configure System. Now, let's find our Git and GitHub configuration options. Under Git, you should see Git installations, and it should find a default version of Git installed. And on Windows, it will show git.exe. And at the very end, we see our GitHub webhook option, which just confirms that the GitHub plugin has been installed. At this point, I don't need to make any configuration changes, so I will return to our dashboard. Welcome. In this video, we're going to set up our first Maven-based build. Now that we have all our prerequisites met, let's create our first Maven-based Java build. Click on Create New Jobs. Optionally, you could go to New Item, and this will land you in the same place. Let's type in a name. The name of the project is Time Tracker. Before, we selected Freestyle Project, but in this case, let's select Maven Project, which is a project that Jenkins has reserved specifically for Maven-based projects. Once you've selected that, click on OK. Great. Let's configure our Jenkins project. On another tab, I have the Time Tracker GitHub project. First thing I'm going to do is select and copy the web address for the GitHub repository. Control-C or right-click Copy. Then go back over to Jenkins, and for the value of GitHub project, paste in that value. This will link our GitHub and Jenkins projects together. Under Source Code Management, select Git. Now, go back over to our tab for our Git repository, then go to our clone options, make sure HTTPS is selected, and then copy to clipboard. Go back to Jenkins and paste in our repository URL. That's Control-V or right-click Paste. Since this is a public repository, I don't need any credentials. The branch specifier master is fine, since I currently only have a master branch. Leave repository browser to auto, and let's continue down to our build section. The root POM is pom.xml, which for this project is correct. This file is relative to the root of this project, which the pom.xml is at the root of my Git repository. The Maven goals and options. Here, I want to specify the Maven goals or phases that I want to specify for Maven to run without the nvn preceding command. In this case, clean space package. At this point, I'm done with any further changes to this job's configuration, so click on Save. Welcome. In this video, we're going to run our newly created Maven project in Jenkins. Before we get started, I'd like to point out an extra item that's part of this project. Since we linked Jenkins to GitHub, we now have a GitHub menu item on this project. If I right-click, open a new tab, it opens my GitHub project. Alright, now let's build our project for the first time. Click on Build Now, and then under Build History, you should see our build in progress. If we want, we can click on the status ball, which will take us to the console output. This will allow us to see our build in progress. Great. Once the output on the screen has finished loading, we can go back up to our Time Tracker project and see that we have a green ball, which now indicates that we have a successful build. Like before, clicking on the status ball will take us to the console output so we can review the entire history of this particular build. And like in a previous video where we did these steps using the command prompt, Jenkins dutifully runs the Maven commands within its own command context. At the end, we see that we have the Maven summary with the build success at the end. This message is also picked up from Jenkins, so at the end, Jenkins says that this build was successful. Additionally, another feature of the Maven-based project for Jenkins is the notion of modules. So after a successful build, we see that we have modules as another option within our menu. Click on Modules. Jenkins will display all the modules that are part of this Maven project, as well as indenting the level of the module. The leftmost item, we have the parent. Then indented one level to the right, we have each of the submodules that are part of this project, Web and Core. Since Jenkins understands modules, we can dive a little deeper and go into Time Tracker Core. On this page, we see a breakdown for this specific Maven module, including a link to the workspace and the artifacts that are associated with this Maven module. Alright, at this point, I'm going to return to the main dashboard for Jenkins. Welcome. In this video, we're going to look at a workspace that accompanies a Jenkins project or job. I'm starting out in the Jenkins dashboard. I'm going to go into the project. Once on the time tracker project, we see that we have a single build that's been successful. To look at the results, click on the workspace item, and Jenkins will show us the folder structure for our project. Depending on how far your build gets, will determine how much is shown here. Since this is a multi-module Maven project, we have our POM XML at the root of our project, as well as two modules, core and web. We also have a .git folder, which is our Git source repository. Let's dive into the core. Within the core, we have our POM XML. Also, at the end of a Maven build, you will be left with a target directory. If we dive into the target directory, we see the artifact that Maven generated as part of the build process. Alright, let's back up a few levels. Back at the root of the project in our workspace, we can go into Web. Here, we see our POM XML, as well as the source main web app web.inf, and a target folder, like in the other module. Click into that, and we have our war. We also have a couple of temporary folders that are created during the Maven build process. Let's go back to the root of our workspace, and we're done for now. So now, go back to our dashboard. Welcome. In this video, I'm going to intentionally fail our Maven build project. I'm currently on our dashboard, and if I go into our project, I can see that I have a single successful build. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a change in our project in order to cause an intentional failure. So I'm going to flip back over to GitHub, and while I'm on the project in GitHub, I need to log in before I can make any changes. So I'm going to click on Sign In. Then you need to provide your username and password for GitHub. Once you provide your username and password, click on Sign In. Once you have successfully signed in, then you are able to make changes to a Git repository. Although I don't recommend making direct changes to a Git repository on GitHub. However, for the purposes of demonstrating this change, I'm going to do so. I'm going to click on Core, and then within this POM XML, I want to make a modification. So I'm going to click on that file. And now, click on the Edit This File icon. This will load that particular file in the online editor that GitHub provides. And let's make a modification to this file that we know will fail. I'm just going to remove the ending slash so that this is no longer a valid project file. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to add a commit message of adding problem on purpose. Then I'm going to click on Commit Changes. Great. Now I'm going to flip back over to Jenkins and start my build now. Within just a few seconds, you can see that we have a failed build. And while we've covered failed builds before, we haven't covered them specifically with Maven projects. So let's dive in and take a look. So if I click on the ball, which is the status indicator, that will take me directly to the console output. If we scroll down a bit, you can see the problem. Failed build because of the parsing of the POMs, which is exactly what we expected. Now let's click on number 2. That takes us to the main page for this particular build. And as Jenkins understands Maven modules, we have a listing of all the modules that are part of this project and its status. And we can see that all 3 modules did not run. That's because Maven will do a validation on the POM XMLs contained within its project, including any child POMs. Alright, let's return to our project. Now let's fix the problem back on GitHub. Since I'm still on this file, I'm going to click the Edit This File icon once again and add the / like before. That returns this tag to a proper ending tag, which restores this file back to a valid POM XML. Once we've completed that, scroll down, add a commit message, fixing POM issue, then commit changes. Great, let's return to Jenkins. Now that we've done that, click on Build Now. Alright, build number 3 took slightly longer, which usually indicates things are going better, and we end up with a successful build, indicated by the green ball. When we click on the green ball, we can see the console output and we can confirm the build success. Great. Let's return to the main project page. Welcome. In this video, we're going to cover how to automate builds by scheduling them. I'm currently on my Maven project's main page. Let's configure our build. Click on Configure, and once the configuration page loads, scroll down until you find the Build Triggers section. These are all the various ways that this build project can be triggered. If you're not sure how something works, most of the time Jenkins provides a question mark that you can expand out. This explains what happens or what the purpose of that setting is. When you're done with the help, you just click on the help icon again to collapse it. The item we're going to look at is build periodically. So check that item, and that expands out to a schedule and an open field. Let's see how the schedule field works by expanding out our question mark. It tells us how the schedule field works, which is much like a cron tab on a Linux system. That means we have 5 positions: the minute position, the hour position, the day of the month position, the month position, and the day of the week position. By putting a value in each one of those positions, we schedule when this job needs to run. It tells us that in each one of these positions, we can enter some type of numeric value. For example, in the minute position, it's 0 through 59 to represent all 60 minutes. The hour, it's 0 through 23, and so on. There are also special values that we can add, which is an asterisk for all valid values for that particular position. We can also enter a range, the first value until the last value. We can also do a little bit of math, that is, a range then divided by another value, or all values divided by a particular value. There's also a special H symbol, which means you can run within some degree of flexibility, that is, somewhere between one value and another value. We also have some aliases that provide a more user-friendly way of representing the job schedule. For example, yearly, annually, monthly, weekly, daily, midnight, or hourly. Alright, let's scroll up and give this a try. Alright, so I've entered in a value, that is asterisk divided by 3 in the minute position, which means run this every 3 minutes, with the asterisks in the other 4 positions effectively allowing this job to run every single 3rd minute. Also, as you move off of the schedule field, there may pop up a little help that says you might want to use this syntax instead of that syntax. So let's make the change that it recommends. So instead of asterisk divided by 3, I'm going to say H divided by 3. Now when I click away from the field, this message gives me an indication of when this job would have ran and when it's going to run next. Let's go ahead and save this change and wait for the build to automatically trigger. Click Save. Alright, now let's wait for the build to trigger. Great, our build has automatically been triggered. In this video, we're going to continue looking at other project build triggers. Head over to Configure, scroll down until you find Build Triggers. Right now we have it set to build periodically, and this will trigger a build based on the schedule regardless if there are changes in source control or not. Instead, I want to poll my source control system on this schedule, but I don't want to build if there have been no changes. So I'm going to select this schedule, right-click and copy, or Control-C. Now I'm going to uncheck Build Periodically, then check Poll SEM. It provides me the same schedule field with the same type of format. So now paste in that value, Control-V, or right-click, paste, and once we save this project configuration, the project will poll or look at our source control system on this schedule, instead of just automatically building. If Jenkins detects a change in source control based on this polling, it will then trigger a build. Now, let's head over to GitHub and make a change to our project. I've gone to the main repository page for this repository, and let's just update the README file. So click on readme.md, and then click on Edit this file icon. I just made a slight tweak to the README file, adding a little purpose section, and then a single sentence afterwards. Once I've made our changes, I'm going to add a commit message, updating README, then click on Commit Changes. Let's head back over to Jenkins, and wait for our next build to build. Great, it looks like Jenkins detected our change. In fact, we end up with an extra item in our menu section, Get Polling Log. Let's check it out. This shows us what Jenkins did to check out for changes, and at the end it says changes were found, which of course triggered our build. In this video, we're going to make a few changes to our Maven project to prepare for our next section. Go to Configure, scroll down to Poll SEM. I like the idea of polling GitHub occasionally to see if there are any new changes, but I think every 3 minutes is probably a little excessive. Let's do it every 15 minutes instead. To change our value, so now we have H divided by 15, and since I want to continue making changes, but I want to make sure this setting is actually saved, I'm going to hit Apply instead of Save. We get a message at the top saying it's saved, but we remain on the configuration page to allow further edits. Great. Let's scroll up and make another quick change. Let's add a nice little description here. A simple time tracking application. Now, if we click on Save, we return to our project's main page. And we see our description, a simple time tracking application listed below the title. Great. Let's return to our dashboard. Welcome. In this video, we're going to look at another interface feature, tabs. We're starting off on the Jenkins main dashboard. We have a tab right now called All. However, right next to All is a little plus mark. If we click on that, it allows us to create a new view. I'm going to give the view name Maven Projects. And right now, the only option available is List View, so I'm going to select it. Then click OK. Now we get to configure the view. We can give it a description, all Java/Maven projects, and then we can select the jobs available. The only one we have right now is Time Tracker, which just happens to be a Maven project. So we'll check it. Then click on OK. So now we have a tab named Maven Projects. We also have a tab called All. And I can switch between the two, and since we only have one project, that project is in both tabs. But I can create another one. I'm going to create a view for Freestyle Projects. I'm not going to check any jobs because the only job we have available is a Maven project, which I don't want part of this view. So just click OK. So now we have a Freestyle Jobs tab without any jobs. So from here, I'm going to click on New Job. I'm going to name it Simple Freestyle Job, make it a Freestyle project, then click OK. I'm not going to do anything right now, so just hit Save. Now let's return to our dashboard. Great. By default, Jenkins likes to come back to the All tab on the dashboard. On the All tab, we have both the Time Tracker project as well as the Simple Freestyle Job. If I go to Maven Projects, we have the Time Tracker. And if we go to Freestyle Projects, we have the Simple Freestyle Job. And the reason why we have it here is because we created our job while on this tab. Great. For now, I don't need the Freestyle Projects tab, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this view. Click on Delete View. I'll be prompted to make sure I want to really delete this view. Select Yes. Now that view disappears. Notice that the job is unaffected. The only difference is there's no longer a view to hold that job, but it still appears under the All tab. Going back to Maven Projects, again, we just have Time Tracker. Since I just needed this project for this demonstration, I'm going to delete it. Instead of going into the project, I can expand out this dropdown and then select Delete Project. I'll be prompted to make sure I want to. Click OK, and now we refresh with only the Time Tracker project. In this video, we're going to dive a little bit under the hood by looking at the Jenkins home directory as well as its working folders. While on the Jenkins interface, I'm currently on the dashboard. Let's go into our project. Once there, let's click on Workspace. This shows us the workspace that the Jenkins project is working with, starting at the root of our project. But this doesn't tell us where on the system this is located. Occasionally, knowing that's useful. To see the Jenkins file system, click on File Explorer. On older versions of Windows, it may be called Windows Explorer. Under this PC, click on the C drive, then go under Program Files or Program Files x86, depending on your system. Since I have a 64-bit version of Windows, and since Jenkins is a 32-bit program, Jenkins will be located under Program Files x86. Either way, look for the Jenkins folder, then go into it. This is the base folder or home folder for Jenkins, and it contains several folders and files that make up the entire Jenkins system, and any temporary files it needs during building. One of those folders is the Jobs folder. If we click into that, we see a list of all our projects. Right now we have Time Tracker. So if we click on Time Tracker, this is the Jobs folder for the Time Tracker project, which contains the configuration as well as metadata and the workspace for this project. I'm going to move the File Explorer over so we can compare the file structure. Now let's go into Workspace. Under Workspace, you can see that we have a file structure that matches the workspace shown in Jenkins. We have core here and we have core here. We have web there and web here as well, and our base POM XML on both sides. So this is the workspace of the project being built. Typically, this is the root of the source control project that you're using with Jenkins on this project. Alright, now that we're done looking at this, let's close our File Explorer and return back to our dashboard. Welcome. In this section, we will hook up quality tools to provide quality analysis regarding our Maven project. Since this project is a Java application, the tools used will be Java focused, including CheckStyle, PMD, Find Bugs, and JUnit. Before we run the new tools, I will review the source code changes made to the source of the project. Many of the changes were made to intentionally trigger quality warnings. We will also cover how to install and configure the plugins for the quality tools used within Jenkins. Once everything is set up with Jenkins, we will execute our project several times to show change over time regarding quality metrics. During the build process, we will enable quality gates within the project configuration to enforce quality standards for our project source code. Welcome. In this video, we're going to review some recent changes that I've made to the Maven project that we are using throughout this course. I'm going to go into the Time Tracker project, and on the main page we have a couple extra new builds. Number 8, which was recently done, includes a lot of changes that I just made for this next section. If I click on the build date, that takes me to the main page for this build. You see that we have a list of changes. These correspond to the commit messages that are part of GitHub. You see I've added several changes that correspond to unit testing and quality metrics. Alright, so while we're here, I'm going to flip over to the tab in our browser that has the GitHub repo ready. Within this GitHub repo, I've added a lot more source to the project. If I go into the POM XML, I've added some properties, and I've also added some plugins under plugin management. I'm setting the Maven compiler to the Java version 1.8. If I scroll down, I have the Find Bugs Maven plugin, the PMD Maven plugin, and the CheckStyle Maven plugin, all set up and configured under plugin management. Also, under the reporting section, I have plugins for PMD, Find Bugs, and CheckStyle as well. Underneath Core, if I go to the POM XML, I've added JUnit and the Spring Testing Framework, as well as the Spring Framework core itself. I also added some classes under SRC, Main Java, Pro, JTailor, Time Tracker Core. Underneath that folder, I have several classes that make up this application. This is the main source for this project. Backing back up to the SRC level, if I go under Test, Java, Pro, JTailor, Time Tracker Core, here are my JUnit test classes for unit testing. For example, Tracker Test is a class defined to test the tracker class in the main source of this project. It's configured with the Spring JUnit 4 class runner. Now that we're done reviewing the changes that I've made to this project for the purposes of unit testing and quality metrics, I'm going to back up to the root of this project. Returning back to Jenkins, I'm going to go back to the project and then back to the dashboard. Welcome. In this video, we're going to look at unit tests within Jenkins. As I demonstrated in a previous video, I've made modifications to the Time Tracker project in GitHub to contain unit test coverage. Let's verify that the unit test plugin for Jenkins is installed. Click on Manage Jenkins, then go to Manage Plugins, click on Installed. The JUnit plugin should already be installed. If the JUnit plugin is not installed, then you need to download it from the Available tab. Alright, go back into the Time Tracker, and even though the last build actually included my unit test results already, I'm going to build one more time so that we can see the unit test in action. So click on Build Now, and as it spins up, click on the date for the build. Then click on Console Output. This will show us our build as it's taking place. Keep an eye out for the unit testing coverage section of the build. Great, we have completed the build, and if we scroll up, we have a section being run that is the tests. Since our test is integrated with the Spring Framework, the first several lines will be spinning up the Spring Framework. Once that's done, a series of unit tests are run, and at the very end, the results of the unit test coverage. The Maven process that Jenkins kicked off ran 3 jobs with 0 failures, 0 errors, and 0 that were skipped. Great, let's go back up to our project, and now at the project level, we see a trending graph. Since I ran 2 builds that are identical back to back, there are no changes in this trend. If we click on Latest Test Results, we get a nice table that shows us the module and the number of tests, pass and fail. Great, let's go back to the top Welcome. In this video, we're going to install the plugins necessary to add quality metrics to Jenkins. I'm currently on the time tracker project in Jenkins. Let's go back up to the dashboard. Once here, click on Manage Jenkins. Click on Manage Plugins. Once there, click on Available. This will click on all the known available plugins available for Jenkins. The plugins we need to install are for PMD, Find Bugs, and Check Style. Let's search for PMD first. Find the PMD plugin and check it. Now go back up to the filter, type in Find Bugs. Find the Find Bugs plugin and check it. Go back up to the filter and type Check Style. Find the Check Style plugin and check it. Click on Download Now and Install After Restart. Once the download of all the plugins have finished, click Restart Jenkins. If after a few minutes Jenkins does not restart or return back to the main page for Jenkins, then manually reload your browser. Great. Once this page comes back up, Jenkins is back alive, and let's return back to the dashboard. Now that we've downloaded and installed the plugins for PMD, Find Bugs, and Check Style, let's enable them for our project. Click on the Time Tracker project. Once that loads, click on Configure. Now, scroll down until you find Build Settings. You should have 3 new items: Publish Check Style Analysis Results, the same for Find Bugs, and PMD. We're going to check all 3. Each one of these items has additional advanced settings which we'll cover later. For now, click on Save. Before we can run our build and expect our quality metrics to show up, we do need to change the Maven command being used. To do that, I'm going to go to Configure, then scroll down until you get to the Build section. For goals and options, go to the end. We should have Clean, Package, then space, then type the goal Site. Clean, Package, and Site are all phases within different life cycles. Clean runs the clean lifecycle, Package runs the default lifecycle up to the package phase, then Site runs the site lifecycle. Alright, now that we've done that, click on Save. Welcome. In this video, we're going to run our project, this time with quality metrics in place. Now that we've configured our project to enable the quality metrics plugins for Jenkins and modify our Maven project to run the goals necessary to execute the quality metrics, let's go ahead and build our project. Click on Build Now. Once the next build starts, click on the status ball to go directly to the console output for that build. Great, now we can monitor the status of the build. Great, now that I've run a successful build with quality metrics enabled, in fact I've ran 2 of them back to back just to give me some sample data, I'm going to reload the time tracker project. One of the reasons why I ran another build back to back is I needed some sample data, more than one build, in order to have the quality metric trend charts displayed on the main page of the Jenkins project. If I scroll down, you'll see that I have Check Style Trend, Test Result Trend, Find Bugs Trend, then PMD Trend. All the trends are straight lines because the builds were identical since I just ran the build one right after the other without making any changes. On the left-hand side menu, I have a menu item for Check Style Warnings, Find Bugs Warnings, and PMD Warnings. Let's check them out. Click on Check Style, and for my project it tells me that I have 100 warnings. There are also 100 high priority warnings. Now if I click on Find Bugs, I have 3 warnings, and the summary breakdown is 1 high priority, 1 normal priority, and 1 low priority. Let's move on to PMD. With PMD, I have 5 warnings. 0 happen to be high priority, and then 5 are normal, and then 0 are low. Alright, let's return to the main page for our project. Welcome. In this video, we're going to set some thresholds in order to fail our build, and then later to make the build unstable. So with our Maven project in Jenkins, we've ran our build with quality metrics enabled. However, it's just giving us nice line graphs, but not really doing anything regarding our build. For me, the main benefit of having the quality metrics built into Jenkins is not necessarily for reporting, although that is useful, but mainly for evaluating the quality of the build in order for it to proceed forward or not. Let's have Jenkins take some action based on the quality of the code within our project. Click on Configure. Scroll down to Build Settings, and for each one of the quality-oriented plugins, we have advanced options. So click on Advanced, which I'm doing under Check Style, and under our advanced settings, we have several options. The status threshold is where we can tell it whether or not to fail or pass the build or make it unstable based on the number of issues detected. We have 4 columns. We have all priorities, high priorities, normal, and low. I'm going to just stick with all priorities. Regardless of the actual priority level, if I have more than 90 issues, I want to fail the build. Alright, let's save that configuration and try it out. Click on Build. Since our current number is 100, which is greater than 90, we should fail the build. I'm going to watch this build in action by clicking on the status ball, which takes us directly to the console output. Great, now that we have finished the build, we notice at the very end we have a finished status of failure. If we back up a few lines, we see that we have our check style plugin with the plugin result of failed. And we see here that we have 100 warnings, which exceeds the threshold of 90 by 10. Let's go back up to our main project page, and we see that we have our red ball indicating a failed build. Let's update this, and maybe this time we don't want to be nearly as aggressive. So click on Configure, scroll down to Build Settings, and then under Check Style Analysis Results, click on Advanced, and we'll move this 90 up to the yellow ball. And then let's set this number to a higher number. Since I know we're currently at 100, we don't want to go backwards. So let's set it to 110. So if I have more violations, I want to fail the build. If I have less but still over 90, then I want to set it as unstable, which means that this build is suspect or questionable at best. Maybe not nearly as bad to fail the build, but still worth looking into. With those changes to the settings made, let's save. Great. Let's build one more time. Click on Build Now. Like before, I'm going to watch this in action. Great, now that the build is finished, we go down, we see that we have a finished status of unstable. If we go up one line, we see that the check style plugin marked it as unstable because we have 100 warnings, which exceeded the threshold of 90 by 10. If we go up to the main project page, we now have a yellow status ball, which means unstable. Welcome. In this video, we're going to make a few changes to our project to see if we can get some improvement in our quality. I'm currently on the main page for our Maven project in Jenkins, and I'm going to go over to this tab, and I have the GitHub repository for this project. Let's go under Core, Source, and most of the offending code is under Main, Java, Pro, JTailor, Time Tracker, Core. The main class for this is tracker.java, so I'm going to click on that. And although I don't recommend editing files directly on GitHub, I'm going to do that now for the sake of speed. Click on the edit icon to edit this file in place. Now let's scroll down and see if we can find some violations. Here's an item we can get rid of. We have an if statement that always executes. So let's get rid of that. Tighten this up a bit, and then let's continue. Here's an if statement that's not correctly evaluating. It's using single equals instead of double equals. Let's fix that. While we're here, let's remove this try catch block that's just completely empty. Alright, so I still have some violations in here, but I just want to see a little bit of improvement. So scroll down to the commit settings and provide a nice, useful commit message. Once I've put in my commit message, click on Commit Changes. Great, now let's hop back over to Jenkins. And while I could wait 15 minutes for Jenkins to automatically poll, I'm going to go ahead and fire up my build now by clicking on the Build Now button. Let's watch this in action. Click on the status ball, and let's see if we have any improvements in our build. Great, looks like we've made a little bit of headway. At the end of our build, we see we have 94 warnings, which still exceeds our threshold of 90 by 4. Let's go back up to the Time Tracker main page. In our check style trend, you can see a slight dip. Let's scroll down and see if there are any other updates. Looks like we have a more noticeable difference for find bugs, going all the way down to 1 violation. And with PMD, we also see a sharp decrease, going from 5 all the way down to 1. Welcome. We're going to continue our quest to improve the quality of this project. In particular, I really want to attack the check style trend. So let's dive a little bit deeper into our check style warnings. So from the main project page, click on Check Style Warnings. For the warnings, I have all warnings are 94, of which all 94 are high priorities. So I can either click on the new warnings or fixed warnings, or I can click on high priority for a list of those items. I'm going to go into the module details, go under core, then under the module core, we see our packages. Under the main package under core, we see that Tracker has the most violations of 16. So let's go into that. We can see the categories of the type of violations, the types, and then the warnings, and then details. So several of these items are just simply nitpick items, and we can quickly address these. So I'm going to go back to types. So some of these items can be taken care of by just cleaning up the code just a little bit. So I'm going to flip back over to GitHub. I'm still on the Tracker Java file from before. Click on the edit and scroll down just a little bit. Let's make sure we end our file with a new line. This if statement's really not doing us any good, so let's get rid of it. Let's add some JavaDoc to each of the public methods. And just copy and then paste. Make a quick tweak. All right, let's add in our parameters. You can copy and then just reuse that. All right, that should be good for this file. Let's commit the changes. Let's flip back to see if there are any other quick wins we can do. Let's look under DAO, under types. All right, we see under warnings, we have several under time entry on line 20, 28, and 36. It's a hidden field check. So if we go to details, it tells us that the description variable hides a field. So let's check in that and see what that problem is. Let's back up, go into DAO, go into time entry. Let's look at line 20. Now I believe what it's complaining about is this passed-in variable named description might be confusing with description at the class level. We can fix that easily enough. Let's go ahead and edit this file. We can just change string description to value, since it's the value that we need to set for this description field. We'll do the same down here, and the same here. Scroll down and make our save. I'm going to use additional check style updates as my commit message. Commit our changes. All right, let's flip back over to Jenkins, go back up to the project level, and let's build now. Once the new build is started, click on the ball to see it in action. It looks like we failed the build, which is one of the downfalls of editing directly on GitHub, is that sometimes you forget something and you're not using the benefit of a text editor with syntax highlighting or a full-blown IDE that understands Java. So a little error kind of creeps in. Just go ahead and fix that right quick. Flip back over to GitHub, go to core, let's go to tracker. Let's look for that comment. Here it is. We have a space between the asterisk and the closing forward slash. And I can see how that might be easy to miss. Let's go ahead and fix that. Let's commit that change. Fixing comment issue. Commit our changes. And let's try building again. So go back to Jenkins, back up to our main page, click on Build Now. Let's watch it in action. All right, so now we're done. Go back to the top. It looks like we actually made things worse. Let's look at the check style warnings and see what the problems are. We have 46 new warnings. Let's check them out. Most of them in our core. For the purposes of check style, adding in the JavaDocs actually did more harm than good. So I could fix the style of the JavaDocs, but it'd actually be a little quicker for me just to remove the JavaDocs entirely. So let's go back over to GitHub and edit the file again. Let's just remove all our JavaDocs. Now I do recommend documenting your code, but just to get the check style warnings down, I'm just going to do this. Put my commit message in, and now commit the change. All right, back to Jenkins. One last build. Back up to the main page, click on Build Now. Let's watch the action. Great. So now that we've finished the build, we get to the end and it says finished success. If we go up a few lines, we see that check style results, no threshold has been exceeded. Let's go up to the main page for our project in Jenkins. And now let's check out our trends. So it looks like our last set of warnings were only 86, which is just barely below our threshold of 90. We can also go down and see that our find bugs trends have gone all the way down to 0. And the same thing for PMD. While using Jenkins to build projects and confirm quality thresholds is fine work, the real benefit is when we can take those build artifacts and publish them so other processes can use them. For our ongoing example, we will expose our Java project build artifacts as a Maven artifact repository. This is useful for other processes to take our build artifacts and use them as dependencies or to deploy them to an application server. We accomplish this by using a plugin and then configuring our Jenkins project to expose its artifacts accordingly. Once all of that is done, we will run our Jenkins project and review the results, which should be in a standard Maven repository layout. Welcome. In this video, I'm going to install the plugin for creating a Maven repo within Jenkins. Within Jenkins, go to Manage Jenkins. Then go to Manage Plugins. Go to the Available tab. On Filter, type Maven. Then scroll down until you find the Maven Repository Server plugin. Check that box, then click on Download Now and Install after restart. Check the box to restart Jenkins. Alright, once that's done, go back to the dashboard. With the Maven Repository Server plugin installed, you should have a new menu item under the left-hand side menu items called Maven Repository. Now that we have the plugin installed, let's configure our project to use it. Click on our Jenkins project, then go to Configure. Scroll down until you find the Build Environment section. You should have an item that says Define Upstream Maven Repository. Check that box. When that box is checked, you'll have some additional parameters that you can configure. By default, these parameters should be set up correctly. Now that we've done that, click on Save. In this video, we're going to build our application with the Maven Repo plugin enabled and then review the results. Now that we've configured our project to use the Maven Repository Server plugin, let's build our project to publish our artifacts. Click on Build Now. While that's building, there is one thing that we haven't covered yet, and that is Enable Auto Refresh. For builds that take a little bit longer than a few seconds, sometimes you want to see the progress a little bit more thoroughly. So enable Auto Refresh. Once the build has completed, we can disable Auto Refresh. Great, let's see if the build artifacts have been published in the latest build. Click on the date item next to the build to open the build item. With the build enabled with the Maven Repository Server plugin, we should have a menu item, Build Artifacts as Maven Repository, as well as a new item on the Build Summary page, Upstream Repository, and the URL. Additionally, if we go back up to the Jenkins dashboard, we can also click on Maven Repository. This is effectively the root location of our Maven repository on the Jenkins server. We have several items. Let's go under everything. We have an item that corresponds to our Maven group ID, training, then time tracker. Then we have our individual parts of our Maven project, the parent, the core, and the web. If we click on web, we should have the items that correspond to their builds. We have a 0.3.1 snapshot. Let's go there. Within that directory, we have several files including war files, POM files, and files that end with SHA-1, which is the digest that goes with their corresponding file. While Jenkins can integrate with several external tools for application deployment, Jenkins can perform this action too. In this section, we will set up and configure our Jenkins project to deploy to an application server. Staying with the Java project, we will download, install, and configure Apache Tomcat. Tomcat is the most popular Java web application container or application servers available. Once that is done, we will review the web application aspects of our source code within our Git repository. Back on the Jenkins side, we will install the appropriate plugin and configure our project to use it for deploying to Tomcat. With everything all set up, we will build our Jenkins project, which should deploy our application to a locally running Tomcat server. After an initial review of the first deployment, we will confirm redeployment after making several minor tweaks. Welcome. In this video, we're going to download and install Tomcat 8 for Windows. I'm going to go to Google Chrome, and when the browser loads, go to tomcat.apache.org. Once the Apache Tomcat site has loaded, go to the Download section and click on Tomcat 8. Under the version number, there should be several options for the available downloads. Go to the 32/64-bit Windows Service Installer. Click on that link, and that will download the installer installation program for Tomcat. Once the download is completed, click on Open. Once prompted by the UAC, click on Yes. Alright, now we have the Tomcat installer set up running. On the first page, click Next. For the license agreement, click I agree. On the Choose Components, review the items that are here. For me, all these items are fine, so click on Next. Review the configuration. For this specific example, if you're installing Tomcat on a system running another server on the same port as port 8080, you might want to change the port number so they don't conflict. For example, I'm running another server on port 8080, that's my Jenkins server. So I'm going to change this from port 8080 to port 9080. I'm also going to update the server shutdown port and the AJP port as well, changing the first digit, the 8, to a 9. Also, under Tomcat Administrator Login, I'm going to type in the username Tomcat. I'm also going to use a simple password. In my case, I'm going to use the password Tomcat. Obviously, for production systems, this is not recommended or secure, but since I'm just testing this out, this is fine. Click on Next. On the virtual machine location, expand this out and find your virtual machine if necessary. For me, I'm going to point it to the JDK instead of the JRE. Then select OK. Once that's done, click on Next. Under Choose Install Location, this is fine for me, but if you want to change the destination folder, go ahead and do so. Click on Install afterwards. This will now install Tomcat. Once the installation wizard is completed, I will let the Tomcat installer run the Apache Tomcat server, but I don't need to see the README. Click on Finish. Tomcat is now being started. To test it out, open a browser tab to localhost, and then the port number that you installed it on. If you kept the default 8080, then go to 8080. I changed the default to 9080, so that's where I'm going. If Tomcat was installed successfully, you should see this welcome screen. In this video, we're going to configure Tomcat to work with our Jenkins server. On the Apache Tomcat welcome page, click on the Manager Application How-To. Then one of the items under Table of Contents should be Configure Manager Application Access. Click on that item. Right here in the middle, we have a list of roles that are available to us. The one we're interested in is called Manager-Script. This specific role allows access to the text-based API for our tools and scripts. So I'm going to copy the name of this role. So right-click and copy or Control-C. Now I need to edit the configuration for Tomcat. So before I do that, I'm going to go to my Start menu. I have pinned the Services app to the Start menu. So select Services. One of the items that we should have available is Apache Tomcat. Select that item, then right-click, then select Stop. Great. Let's close Services, and for now, let's minimize our browser window. Go to the Start menu, and since I don't have Notepad++ out here, and I know I've installed it, I'm going to go to All Apps, and then find Notepad++. I'm going to expand it out. When I find the Notepad++ item, I'm going to right-click and select Run as Administrator. Once prompted by the UAC, say Yes. Then click on Open. Navigate to C Drive, Program Files, Apache Software Foundation, Tomcat 8.0, Conf, then select Tomcat-Users. Select the file and then click Open. With the User field, I want to select and then copy this item. So copy, go down a line, and then Control-V or paste. Change this from Manager-GUI to Manager-Script. We want to change this username to Jenkins. We'll also use Jenkins as the password. Again, not super secure, and you certainly wouldn't want to do this for a production system. Now that we've done that, save, and then close Notepad++. Now, let's start Tomcat again. Go to the Start menu, click on Services, find the item Apache Tomcat, right-click, select Start. All right, let's test this out. Let's open up our browser again. Let's go back to localhost 9080. Great. We know that Tomcat's running. The URL for the text-based manager is /manager/text. And I want to use the /list command. This will list out all the deployed applications currently on Tomcat. We should be prompted for our authentication. So type in the username Jenkins, and then in the password field, Jenkins. Click on Login. If that was successful, you should have this page that shows the list of applications deployed to Tomcat. We have /, which is the root application, which is the welcome screen, /manager, which is this application, /docs, which contains all our documentation. Now we are ready to integrate with Jenkins. Now that we have downloaded, installed, and configured Tomcat, let's integrate this with Jenkins. So I'm going to fire up localhost 8080, which is where Jenkins is installed. Go to Manage Jenkins, click on Manage Plugins, go to the Available tab, then within Filter, type Deploy. Then scroll down until you find the Deploy plugin. Check that plugin, then click Download Now and Install after restart. Check the box to restart Jenkins. If Jenkins does not come back after a few minutes, click on the Jenkins icon, and sometimes that just refreshes your browser with Jenkins. Before we deploy our application to Tomcat, let's review some source code that I've recently changed. Go to the Time Tracker repository on GitHub, which is under the SRC Tips organization. Once that repo is loaded, go to Web. This is the web module that's part of this application. Under SRC Main Web App, this is the web application root for the application. I have a web XML, which is the standard deployment descriptor for a web application for Java. Currently, it just defines a welcome page, which is the index.jsp. If I go back up to web app, I have an index.jsp. Right now, I have an H1 that says example web page and a paragraph that has this is an example web page on a JSP. So once deployed, we should see this web page rendered as a standard HTML document. Alright, now that we've looked at our source, let's hook up our Jenkins project to Tomcat. I'm going to flip over to Jenkins, then go to our project, then click on Configure. Then go to Post Build Actions, select Deploy WarEar to Container. For WarEar files, you can use an ant style path, for example /*war, which will pick up any war file in the project. For context path, select /demo. Under Containers, go to Add Container, select Tomcat7. Under Manager Username, type Jenkins, which is the user that we set up under Tomcat for the manager script configuration. The manager password is also Jenkins. For Tomcat URL, type the base URL to our Tomcat server, which is located on localhost :9080. Once you've set that up, click Save. Now that we've configured this project to deploy to Tomcat, let's try it out by building now. Click on Build Now. Let's watch it in action. We're going to click on the status ball, and that brings up the console output, and so we should be able to watch this in action. Great. Once the build is completed, at the very end, let's review the log. We see here we have a line that says deploying this war to the container Tomcat 7 remote. Although we're deploying to Tomcat 8, both Tomcat 8 and 7 are compatible. It notices that particular war is not yet deployed, so it does a fresh deployment. And we end with a status of success. Let's flip back over to the manager list, and if we refresh, we should see a /demo running on context demo. But let's try it out. Open up a new tab and go to localhost :9080/demo. The example web page should be displayed. Great, we have confirmed our deployment from Jenkins. Now that we've successfully deployed, let's modify this page and see it redeploy. I'm going to flip back over to the GitHub repository, go into Web, go into Source Main Web App, click on the index.jsp, click on Edit this file. All we have to do is make some minor changes. I'm changing the title to Super Simple Example Web Page. In the paragraph content, this is a very simple example web page on a JSP. Add a commit message, simple changes for web page content, then commit changes. Now hop back over to Jenkins, go to the main page for our project, then click on Build Now. That schedules an immediate build. Let's watch this in action as well. Once the project has finished building, review the last several lines of the log. We see we are deploying the war file to the container 7x, which is really 8. It's redeploying our existing war file. So it undeploys, then it deploys. Then we end with a status of success. Let's flip over to Tomcat, and within our application, reload. We should now see our changes. No course on Jenkins would be complete without a discussion about security. In this section, we will enable security and gradually increase our security sophistication. Jenkins, by default, comes with security disabled. We will review the other security options available before we start making the system more secure. We will start with minimal security, which will simply allow anyone that can log in with full access to Jenkins, which means we will create a couple user accounts for authentication within Jenkins. Finally, at the end, we will dive into the role strategy plugin that will allow an even greater control by restricting users to specific projects. Welcome. In this video, we're going to enable security in Jenkins. Up until this point, we have not enabled any type of security within Jenkins. So when we go to Manage Jenkins, we have a friendly reminder to set up security. So now we're going to do so. I could click on Set up Security, but instead I'm going to go to Configure Global Security, which is the normal way to set up and then configure or modify security in the future. So click on that. Once the Configure Global Security page loads, we need to check the item Enable Security. While this item is unchecked, we won't have security enabled. Great. Now that we have enabled security, authorization is set up for anyone can do anything, which is almost the same thing as not having security at all. So we need to fix that. Under Security Realm, we have 3 choices currently. The one we're going to use is the middle option, which is Jenkins' own user database. This option will have Jenkins manage the database of users and groups. Under Authorization, let's change to Logged in users can do anything, which is slightly more secure than anyone can do anything. Great. Now let's save. And now Jenkins will prompt me for my username and password. However, I haven't set one up yet. On the previous screen, I enabled an option that would allow anyone to register themselves for an account. That provides this link here, Create an Account. So I'm going to do that now. And on this page, just fill out the form to create an account. I put my information in here, and in the password and confirm password, just remember the password. Once you've done that, click Sign Up. Great. Now that we've logged in, let's go back to the top of Jenkins. Let's log out. When I go to Jenkins, I'll have the Login option. Now that we've enabled security, let's poke around. I'm currently not logged in. I'm browsing Jenkins as an anonymous user. And as an anonymous user, by default, I do have access to look around at things, but not change things. So let's go into our project. I can review the status of the project, but I can't actually build the project, at least not manually. Let's go back up to the dashboard. You'll also notice this left-hand side is a little different. It doesn't include anything that would allow us to configure Jenkins. In order to do that, we need to log in. So click on Login. On the login screen, type the username and password that you created when you signed up. Then click Login. Great. Now that we're logged in, we have the build icon, which will allow us to schedule a build immediately, as well as the Manage Jenkins link. Also, if we go into our project, we have the ability to change our project, including building, deleting the project, or configuring our project. In this video, we're going to install the Role Strategy plugin. Go to Manage Jenkins. Before we dive in and install the plugin, let's review our options in Global Security. Right now, the security realm is set up to use the Jenkins' own user database, and the authorization model is that all logged-in users can do anything. This mode also allows anonymous users to freely browse Jenkins, although they can't modify anything. I want to increase my security. I don't want anonymous browsing of the Jenkins site, and I want to lock down users to specific projects. Other options I have available to me by default within Jenkins would be matrix-based security. If I click on that, this provides me a global matrix of permissions. This would allow me to add a user and then check the boxes for the specific credentials that I wish to grant. Or I could do a project-based matrix authorization strategy, which is similar but at the project level. For the moment, I'm going to leave it back at logged in users can do anything. Now I'm going to save just to make sure that those settings are set correctly. Now let's move on to installing a plugin that will allow us greater flexibility with managing security. Click on Manage Plugins, then go to Available. Within the filter, type Role. Find the Role Strategy plugin. Check that item, then click on the button for Download Now and Install after restart. While we're here, check the box to restart Jenkins. Once Jenkins has finished restarting, log in if necessary. Once logged in, go to Manage Jenkins, then click on Configure Global Security. Let's verify that our plugin was successfully installed. Under Authorization, we should now have an option for Role-Based Strategy. So now that we've verified that the Role-Based Strategy plugin has been enabled, on the Configure Global Security page, under Authorization, select Role-Based Strategy. Once you've done that, click Save. Once you return to the Manage Jenkins page, scroll down, and we now should have Manage and Assign Roles. Click on that, and this is how we manage roles and assign those roles. So click on Manage Roles. We have 3 categories of roles: global roles, project roles, and slave roles. We'll be concerning ourselves with global and project roles, starting off with global roles. By default, we're given a single role called admin that has all permissions, and there are no project roles. If I go back up to Manage and Assign Roles, then click on Assign Roles, this is where we add our users and assign the roles they will have. We have the same corresponding 3 groups of roles. By default, the login account that enables role-based security will be granted the admin role. This, of course, can be changed later, but for now, this is fine. Let's return to Manage and Assign Roles. Welcome. In this video, we're going to create another account. I'm currently logged in as my user, which is Jason Taylor, with the user account of just Jason. Let's go to Manage Jenkins, then scroll down to Manage Users. This page will list out all the users that are currently registered with Jenkins. And on this page, we can create additional users. So let's do that. Click on Create User. I'm going to create an account for John Doe with the username of John. Once you've filled out the form, click Sign Up. Great, now we have Jason and John listed. Now go back to the dashboard, and I want to create some additional jobs. So click on New Item. In the item name, just give it some type of demo account name. I'm going to select Freestyle, then OK. For the demo job, I just want it to exist, so I don't need to actually configure anything here. So hit Save, and go back to the dashboard, and let's create one more item. Same thing here. Just hit Save. Great, now let's go back to our dashboard. On our All tab, we have our Time Tracker project, and then Demo 1 and Demo 2. Welcome. In this video, we're going to log in as John in another browser and then tweak his permissions accordingly. First thing I need to do is resize this browser window. Now I'm going to launch Internet Explorer to be my second browser. Go to Search and type Internet. On the top hit should be Internet Explorer. Click that item. Once Internet Explorer loads, move it over and then copy the Jenkins URL and then paste it into the address bar in Internet Explorer. Great. Jenkins within Internet Explorer should prompt you to log in. Log in as the account that you created before, in this case, John. Once you type in the credentials, click Login. Since we only added John, we didn't set up his permissions yet, so let's do that. That's one of the reasons why I want to have 2 browsers open. One logged in as John, and one logged in as myself. Back on my original browser, which is Chrome, go to Manage Jenkins, then scroll down to Manage and Assign Roles. Let's create a new role, so click on Manage Roles. Underneath the Global Roles table, there will be Role to Add. Find the field, then type the name of the role you wish to add. Once you've done that, click on the Add button. Now Users has been added to the table of Global Roles. Now we need to click the items in order to assign rights to that particular role. Under the Overall section, click on Read. That will allow the user to log in. Also, let's scroll all the way over. Under Job, click on Discover and Read. Under View, check Configure, Create, Delete, and Read. Great. Now that we've done that, we need to save our changes, so scroll down until you find the Save button. Then click Save. Once back on the Manage and Assign Roles page, click on Assign Roles. Under the Global Roles section, type in the username to add to Global Roles. I'm going to type in John, then click Add. Once John has been added to Global Roles, I'm going to add him to the Users group. Now, let's save our changes. Scroll down, find Save, then click it. Great. Now that we've created that role and assigned John to that role, let's go back over to Internet Explorer and refresh. Now John can see Jenkins like we do, except he doesn't have the ability to build or change anything, much like the anonymous users were able to do in our previous configuration for security. However, in this configuration, using the role-based strategy, by default, the anonymous users aren't able to browse Jenkins. Welcome. In this video, we're going to fine-tune our security so that John will only see the demo projects. As we left it, we allowed John to log in and see Jenkins. However, there are a few problems with our security right now. John is able to see the Time Tracker project as well as the demo projects. Also, I want John to be able to build the demo projects. And right now, John is not able to build or configure anything. So let's fix that. Return to our browser that has our main session. And logged in as yourself, go to the Manage and Assign Roles page, and then under that, go to Manage Roles. We currently have 2 roles under Global Roles, Admin and Users. The current state of the global user's role will allow them to see any jobs that we have in Jenkins, which isn't necessarily what I want to do. So I'm going to uncheck Discover and Read under the Job section. Scroll down and click on Apply. This will save our changes without moving off this page. So now we can continue. Under Project Roles, I want to create a new project role. For doing so, we have two items: Role to Add, which is the name of the role we wish to add, and then Pattern. Pattern is a regular expression matching against the name of the projects. If you're not familiar with regular expressions, or just need a good way of testing out regular expressions before you implement them, you can go to a site called regx101.com. Once that page loads, this top line is the regular expression that you're going to use. Then we have our options, and then below we have the string to test. The name of one of our projects is Demo1 with a space and a capital D. And while regular expressions is somewhat advanced and outside the scope of this project, I will walk you through the exact pattern that I'm going to be using for this particular role. The first item is an up caret, which signifies the beginning of a string to match. Then I'm going to use a capture group, which is signified by parenthesis. Next, I'm going to type in the characters, in this case demo with a capital D, that I need to match. Outside the capture group, I'm going to use a period, which means match any character. Following the period, use an asterisk, which is a qualifier for the period, which means 0 or more times. Finally, I'm going to end this regular expression with a $sign, which matches the end of this regular expression. On the right-hand side, we see an explanation of how this regular expression is working. Also below it, we see the matching information, which in this case, it's matching demo, which is exactly what we want. Now that we have a successful matching regular expression, let's copy that expression, select it, and then Control-C or right-click and copy. Flip back over to Jenkins, and in the pattern field, paste in that value. That should paste in the regular expression that we had from that other page. For the value of the role to add, I'm going to name this Demo-Projects. Then click Add. Once that project role has been added, let's grant the permissions we need for this role. Within the Job section, let's check all the options available under Job, starting with Build. Great. Let's go ahead and check the items under Run and SEM. Now that we've done that, scroll down and click on the Save button. Now that we've saved our changes to our role, click on Assign Roles. Under Project Roles, go to User/Group to add. Type John, then click on Add. Once John has been added to the project roles, check the item under Demo-Projects. This will assign John to the Demo-Projects role. Once we've done that, click on Save. Great. Now let's check it out. Go back to Internet Explorer, which should have John logged in, and click on Refresh. Now, John only sees the demo projects. Congratulations! We have reached the end of this course on Jenkins. We have covered the core concepts, including how Jenkins is designed and its architecture. We learned about projects or jobs, which contain the instructions for building software projects. We looked at both the anything goes freestyle projects and the more specific Maven projects. We learned about the important role of plugins within Jenkins. That is, they provide nearly all functionality. We also walked through several hands-on examples in Jenkins, starting with an overview of the user interface and how to install and configure plugins. We also created several projects, which we expanded upon by adding code quality analytics and finally deploying to an application server. Finally, we ended our Jenkins examples by enabling security and refining it with a role strategy. Please check back periodically for updates or improvements to this course. I encourage you to take part in the course discussions. I monitor these discussions daily and respond quickly. However, please join in answering questions from other students as well. I also provide open office hours for students to ask questions related to courses they are taking. Watch the course announcements for the next scheduled upcoming office hours event. Please take a few minutes to leave an honest review for this course so others can benefit from your thoughts and impressions. If you have other feedback or questions, please reach out to me via the direct messaging feature. Finally, if you enjoy my teaching style and want to expand your understanding of several related topics like Git, Maven, and the command line tools, Check out the final lecture in this course for a list of exclusive student discount codes for my other courses.